Welcome back to the Awesemo MMA DFS strategy show right here on Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd. Happy Thursday night to you. Appreciate you taking time out of your day, whether you're watching us live or maybe you're listening to us after the fact. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. And Pete, I was scrolling through my Twitter timeline, and I saw kind of your less than optimistic view on UFC Vegas number 26.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I am obsessed with fights, so obviously, of course, I will watch it, but I have to really get motivated for this card, Jason. You know, I mean, it's got some interesting matchups. I have a couple friends on the card. Obviously, I'm really interested in their fights and everything like that. But, like, it's a week of a lot of inconsistent fighters and kind of where are you at now type of fights.
No, you're right. There are fights on this card just from a pure fight aspect that do intrigue me. Those fights are not the main event or co-main event. I'll tell you, Neal Magny versus Jeff Neal is one of those matchups. Diego Ferreira against Gregor Gillespie is another one. Mma Dfs versus Angela Hill. And the other one I would say is Phil Hawes versus Kyle Dawkins. Just from a straight fight aspect, those are the fights that really do intrigue me. And I'll tell you one thing, when I was putting my sheet together with the salaries, and it was more on the FanDuel side of the equation, I was like, man, this is one of those weeks on FanDuel, you could potentially have a decent amount of salary left over and not feel bad.
Yeah, that doesn't happen too often. You know, it's kind of like a Draftkings style of playing, of leaving salary left on the table. FanDuel's a little tough week to week, but I do feel like this week it can make some sense. And, you know, obviously the more that you leave on the table, the more unique your lineups are and the more contrarian. So I'm excited to break down some of these fights with you, but all those fights you mentioned are the ones that I'm honestly looking forward to.
Of course, one of the things we do want to let you know before we start breaking down the fights is today's free premium data and tools over Awesemo.com is MMA fighter projections. So be sure to check out that to help you develop your lineups here for UFC Vegas number 26. But Pete, let's get right into the main event. Marina Rodriguez taking on Michelle Waterson. You know, the one stat that I think sticks out to you that I wonder how many people realize that Marina Rodriguez is only 1 year younger than Michelle Waterson.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little odd, but, you know, you think about what Waterson has done in MMA, and a lot of people are, you know, have been playing catch up, and we are starting to see the new wave of generations coming in and, you know, the people that kind of like the up and coming stars. But Marina Rodriguez has been training and fighting for a while, but she's primarily a striker. So I'm interested to see her in this matchup against Michelle Waterson, who clearly will look to expose her on the mat like everybody will try to do, because if you stand with Marina Rodriguez, you saw what can happen. And a fighter like Mma Dfs can get upset and kind of knocked out of nowhere. So it's a tricky fight for sure. And I think that there's paths to victory for both ladies. I'm excited for the main event. If it is 5 rounds, which I think that you confirmed with me prior to the show, then I am. I think the later this fight goes, that, you know, Michelle Waterson is live to pull an upset. But I do think that Marina Rodriguez is extremely dangerous of an opponent. I think it's a fight where you will have to have some exposure to both fighters. But you know, it's a weird main event.
I haven't seen anything that notes it's a 3-round fight. So expectations are that I believe it will be a 5-round matchup. I mean, look, the one thing that sticks out to you about Marina Rodriguez, in her last 3 fights, she's been taken down 9 times. 5 of those takedowns did come against Carla Esparza. So to me, that is clearly the path for Michelle Waterson. When you look at the DFS salaries over on FanDuel, Marina Rodriguez at $20 is an intriguing play for me, because she's gonna have to stop takedowns. She is going to see takedowns in this matchup. If you want to take Michelle Waterson, I don't mind that as a little bit of a value punt play, whether we're talking FanDuel or DraftKings. DraftKings, she's $7,000, $14 over on FanDuel. In that 5 rounds, I mean, if you sit there and say you could put Michelle Waterson in your lineup at $7,000 and she can get you 50 points, I'd take it.
Yeah, I don't hate her. I think she's a great value because of the 5 rounds, because of her style. I mean, if she goes and tries to just stand and strike with Marina Rodriguez, I think that she will not be quite successful. I think she will be on the losing end of a lot of these exchanges. I think Marina Rodriguez has the more pop in her shots. Michelle Waterson was known for slick throws and good striking, and we've seen her start to resort more towards her takedowns in a lot of her fights. And I do think that that's the primary path for her in this bout. Mix things up, keep Marina Rodriguez guessing, because the longer Marina Rodriguez is on the feet, the more violent she's going to be. And I like her to win the bout. I truly do. But you brought up a great point as far as value. Michelle Waterson in her fights only has a takedown accuracy of 34%, which does inspire confidence that Marina Rodriguez can stuff some of these takedowns. Now, they're not traditional double legs all the time or even single legs. It's a lot of head and arm throws or some in the clinch throws that Michelle Waterson likes to resort to. She's very good at it. I just don't know if she can really keep Marina Rodriguez on the mat. And even if she is on the mat, besides solidifying rounds, can she really work towards accumulating a lot of strikes or accumulating some points for us? So for me, it's Marina Rodriguez. Obviously, it's a rich salary to pay at $9,200, but because of the 5 rounds, I guess it's kind of warranted. I wish she was a little cheaper, though.
No, I'm with you there, especially when we talk about that DraftKings scoring system, when we're talking about, if she can keep this fight at range, 0.4, per, total strikes plus significant strikes. Can she potentially maybe get a knockdown? Maybe she even gets her own takedown at some point. That's something to take advantage of. Of course, there's many great ways to check out this show, along with watching it here on YouTube. You can check it out as part of the Awesemo Podcast Network. Of course, you can go to awesemo.com/podcast to get the links for this show and all the great programming we have here at awesemo.com. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on any of our podcast channels with your Twitter handle or email address and you'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner is awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible to win up to 1 year. So good luck over there. It's a great way. As I'm driving around town, I love to sit there. As I always say, I usually start my morning drive off with that NBA Slate Starter podcast. I kind of start to figure out what I am going to do in terms of NBA that night. Let's move on to the co-main event. We've got Donald Cerrone taking on Alex Morono. Of course, we all know it's supposed to be Cerrone versus Diego Sanchez. I don't think we need to really go into that. I think everyone who's watching or listening to the show knows exactly what happened there. Donald Cerrone, 8,400. Alex Morono, 7,800. That's on DraftKings. Over on Fanduel, $22 for Donald Cerrone, $10 for Alex Morono. If you were looking to bet this fight, I think at one point, Donald Cerrone was like minus 130. You're not going to see that number. You're not going to see that number here. But, one of the things as I was thinking about this fight, we were talking about it before the show, but one thing we didn't talk about is Alex Morono is a in-your-face type fighter. He may not be the fastest guy. He may not be the most athletic guy. But the one thing is he's going to be in your face.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with this matchup. Obviously, I'm disappointed that Cerrone and Sanchez didn't get to face off. I was really favoring Cerrone in the matchup. So now, with some changes and everything, we do have Alex Morono stepping up on short notice. So obviously, I'm initially questioning, is Morono in shape? Has he been preparing for a fight? Has he been in camp? Has he been helping teammates like a Jeff Neal or whoever on the card, to get ready for this card? You would hope so if you are backing Morono, because if you think that you can just come off the couch and beat Donald Cerrone, well, I mean, yeah, he's winless in his past 5 fights, but I mean, it still is against some elite competition, and it is still Cowboy Cerrone with a wealth of experience, future UFC Hall of Famer, if not UFC Hall of Famer already. Cowboy has a variety of ways to get a fight done. Like he's a good striker, but over the years, you have started to see him incorporate more takedowns, and he's a very sneaky grappler. I've been saying it and shouting it for years. Everybody that's been listening to this show knows Cowboy's a friend of mine, and I've always talked about his ground game, of how amazing his ground game is. And I think that's something that could be like an ace up his sleeve in this fight against Alex Morono, because if Morono just thinks he's going to come forward and press Cowboy Cerrone, that is the pathway to victory over him, right? Like, don't allow Cowboy to go forward, put him on his back foot, and don't let him get going. Hop on him early in the first round. Now, I do think that the Diego Sanchez fight ignited a fire, so to speak, under Cowboy Cerrone. So I was much more looking forward to his performance with all that bad blood. Is it somewhat deflating to now face a different opponent and try to still act mad? Or are you still motivated to go out there and put on an incredible performance because your back is against the wall? You are winless in your past 5. Obviously, I still think that in a lot of the metrics, Cowboy has an advantage in the striking department, his versatility with his kickboxing. I talked about his takedowns. I think the submission game, despite Morono being a black belt, I think that Cerrone has the edge there, and you can clearly see that in this grappling match against Rafael dos Anjos.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those fights that I don't think I will prioritize it, and I think this is going to be a theme we talk about throughout this card. Of there's just a lot of fights on this card that you're not going to feel extremely comfortable with picking either sided. I mean, there's multiple fights throughout this card that I look at. Like, I do think Donald Cerrone is the guy that if you tell me single entry type, I got to have one guy from this fight, to me, I would pick Donald Cerrone, but I don't feel good about it just because of, you mentioned about it, of what his track record has been over the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to do one of two things. Either history is going to repeat itself, or you're going to see maybe a better than ever Cowboy Cerrone. I mean, sometimes when an animal is back in the corner, they respond in a strong manner. And you would like to see it with Cowboy. Obviously, it's been against some legitimate competition, but the forward pressure of Morono, his good combinations do, kind of leave some worry for me in this matchup. I think that Morono is an excellent value play and that he should be a part of your underdog pool as well, because, I mean, he's facing a fighter that's winless in his past 5. I mentioned it several times now, but, it's a lot more difficult of a fight than maybe even Morono's expecting.
Yeah, it's just one of those tough matchups, a part of this card. Of course, appreciate everyone that tunes into Awesemo right here on YouTube. If maybe this is your first time here, you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe here. We got a lot of great shows for you each and every day. Of course, myself and Pete will be here for about the next 50 minutes. And of course, we'll be back on Saturday for Live Before Lock at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to subscribe to Awesemo. Hit that notification bell so you know when a show is live. And of course, give us a thumbs up. We always do appreciate those thumbs up that we do get on our videos, whether you're watching us live or watching us after the fact. Let's move on. Next up, we have got Neal Magny versus Jeff Neal. One of those matchups that really does intrigue me. So we got 9,000 here for Jeff Neal over on Draftkings, 7,200 for Neal Magny, and then $20 and $13 respectively over on Fanduel. Anytime, Pete, that we talk about Neal Magny, the first thing that's going to come to mind is the reach that he has at welterweight, 80 inches. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big guy for the division, 6'3", 80-inch reach, and that usually gives fits to his opponents. He keeps him on the end of his jab. And before I looked at the metrics and everything, I was really thinking in my mind, viewing Neal Magny as kind of like a volume guy, right? Like he pitter-patters you from the outside a lot or incorporates a ton of takedowns. So then when I pulled the stats, and I do see that Jeff Neal still throws at a higher rate, obviously he absorbs a lot more shots than Neal Magny does. I was a little surprised by that, because 3.67 significant strikes for Neal Magny, 4.94 for Jeff Neal. Obviously, that's all dependent on the fights in the matchups, but I think that it's pretty clear Jeff Neal has the power advantage in this matchup. The length and the reach clearly on Neal Magny's side, but in order to stifle the dangerous Jeff Neal, you need to tie up with him. You need to incorporate takedowns, put him on his back, put him in unfamiliar territory, if you will. But Neal does have solid takedown defense, really good, actually, 92%. And I think this could be a case where both guys are looking to rebound from losses, a loss to Chiesa for Magny, a loss to Thompson for Neal. And maybe a lot of people are discrediting Jeff Neal's performance against Stephen Thompson, but I tell you all the time that Stephen Thompson is the trickiest fighter you could ever prepare for. So whenever somebody comes out of a fight with Stephen Thompson, I feel like they've leveled up and that they will be better in their next outing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were talking about before the show with Neal Magny is, it's kind of a litmus test of are you a top 10 fighter or not? Neal kind of, when Neal's, for the most part, his success comes against fighters who are towards the end of their run in the UFC, that 10 to 15 range. So it's a big matchup for Jeff Neal. The 9,000 price tag to me is, I think the question becomes is, can he finish Neal Magny? And I don't know about that.
I feel like he can. I obviously don't think that it's a clear yes, because Neal Magny's not a bad striker at all. He's so tall, so obviously a looping shot is always in play here. And obviously Jeff Neal will have to hop on a hurt, Neal Magny. But we have seen Neal Magny rocked at times or submitted on the ground. So I think a finish is possible. I'm not expecting a submission finish by any means. But, Neal Magny at 7,200, easily one of the best values on the slate, especially if he can get a hold of Jeff Neal, put him on his back, stifle the offense. So split your exposure, but I like Jeff Neal quite a bit here, Jason.
Now, when you want to get access to all the great premium tools and data we have over Awesemo.com, you got to sign up for Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass for $29.95. Gives you access to player projections, ownership projections, and so much more, including our premium Slack. And if you just want a MMA Weekly Pass, get that for $8.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Go to Awesemo.com/join to sign up for one of those packages today. Of course, that Top Fighter tool is a tool that I use each and every week. And of course, those ownership projections, as one of the things that I'm always doing is who are the fighters under 20% who maybe I can find a little leverage in. So check out that. If you're not a member to Awesemo Plus, be sure to take advantage of what we got going on over there so you can be a part of that Awesemo Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but let's move on to a heavyweight matchup that I don't think anyone is going to feel good no matter what side of the equation you roster in this one. Unfortunately, I feel like this might be a fight you have to be optimal on Saturday night. That is the Crochet boss Maurice Green taking on Marcus Rogerio de Lima. Lima 9,100, 7,100 for the Crochet boss, and then $21 and $9 respectively. Over on FanDuel, this is my general thought with this one. If you take Lima, your thought is, please don't let this see minute 6. If you're a greenbacker, you're probably going, please let me see the minute 6.
Yeah, I mean, why do the MMA gods have to do this to us? I mean, they're pairing two untrustworthy guys against each other, and maybe it's like a loser leaves town type of matchup, Jason. I mean, I don't know. I mean, both of these guys have been somewhat underwhelming in the UFC, and both are, consistently inconsistent. So it's who do you trust slightly more? I mean, there is a slight experience advantage for Rogerio de Lima here, but I mean, he's really shown to have like a terrible gas tank. A susceptibility to kind of just get outworked in certain areas. Maurice Green is a guy that I haven't bought into the hype or really been a Maurice Green backer. And I can honestly say that. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but for me, his fighting style I think that there's a lot of potential because of his length and his size. He's 6'7", so he should be able to go out there and just dismantle people. But you look at a guy like Stefan Struve, I mean, big, tall guy, big, tall frame, and struggled with imposing his will on plenty of fighters within the division. So for me, I like Rogerio de Lima a little bit more than I like Maurice Green, but I feel like this is a fight where you'll have to close your eyes, hope for the best, hope that you have the right exposure levels for the victor. And, you're going to probably need to roster this fight, because if it goes the distance, I would be very surprised. Rogerio de Lima seems to give up as the going gets tough, and Maurice Green gets hit quite a bit. So I think Maurice Green is going to get sat down with some punches. And as long as Rogerio de Lima doesn't fall into a submission attempt, I think he should be able to walk away victorious. But a come from behind Maurice Green submission off his back is always live.
Look, if you want to play Maurice Green wins round 2, Maurice Green wins round 3, I don't blame you in terms of the betting side of this one. But I just feel like in terms of DFS, this may be a fight that we might have to prioritize, but we just don't feel good about it.
Yeah, 100%. I hate this. I hate it when you don't enjoy rostering a fight, but you understand that it's probably not going the distance and somebody's going to get finished. So I do think that even at 7,100, a guy like Maurice Green should be at the top of your underdog priority list because of the volatility of the matchup, because of what you've seen in De Lima's losses. And at 7,100, he doesn't really need to perform all that well to pay off that salary. So split your exposure, guys. I mean, that's the best I can do with that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, and I think, when you look throughout this card of fighters under 8,000, you sit there and go, okay, that needs to be in the underdog pool. All right, that person needs to be there. There are several of those options. I mean, you could spend $100 less to go to Waterson, or you could spend $200 more and go to Diego Ferreira against Gregor Gillespie. This is a matchup that I am really interested to see how it does play out, particularly if this matchup does hit the ground. Of course, Gregor Gillespie was supposed to fight a couple of weeks ago against Brad Riddell. I was all over Gregor Gillespie in that matchup. I just stylistically, I thought that was a great matchup. But this is a step up from Brad Riddell. I mean, obviously, what was it? I mean, at this point, a year and a half ago when he had that loss against Kevin Lee. So that's always kind of the question mark. But 8,900 for Gregor Gillespie, 7,300 for Diego Ferreira, and 21 and 10 respectively over on Fanduel. I mean, this is the thing. Gregor Gillespie, he is a Draftkings stud because of that takedown ability.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the box score of Gregor Gillespie, you can recognize that he'll be one of the most highly owned fighters on the entire slate, and for good reason. I mean, he's the Habib of this card. I mean, he scored 121, 117, 128, 146 in some of his victories. But I can ask you the question, who's his best win? And, you could scratch your head a little bit because he hasn't really been tested so much within the octagon. And then when he finally received a stiff test against Kevin Lee, he was knocked out. But I don't really want to hold that above his head. I mean, it's MMA. And, we always talk about it. The best guy doesn't always win. And Gregor Gillespie clearly has a game plan and style that benefits, his DraftKings salary and his scoring. So I think that he's one of the best, plays on the slate despite the tough matchup. Obviously, the question is, what has he been doing since the layoff? He did, if you want to look at that in a positive light, he did allow his brain to heal from the knockout defeat, and he didn't rush back into the octagon. So that's always very, very good, and I like to see that, a fighter prioritizing their health instead of activity. And, at 8,900, typically wrestlers give jiu-jitsu fighters a very, very hard time. And I always tell you guys, and I tell Jason all the time, that when you train with a lot of wrestlers and you're defending their takedowns, it's very difficult to defend their takedowns sometimes. And then you start to roll with some jiu-jitsu players, and it doesn't even feel like it's the same level. So obviously Gillespie will need to smother Diego Ferreira, because even on the feet, I probably favor Diego Ferreira in some of these exchanges. But it's the possibility of getting reversed, getting threatened with a submission, or countered on the mat is always live for Diego Ferreira. But I'm going to act like the same old Gregor Gillespie shows up and walks into the octagon and kind of just is back to business. At 8,900, I mean, I kind of want to just eat that chalk, so to speak, and I don't want to be, on the outside looking in. If you were looking for a contrarian play, avoid Gillespie, target Ferreira. Ferreira is one of the most talented underdogs on the card.
And I think he's got the power advantage in this matchup. And we were talking before the show about the one thing that does concern you about Gillespie is the Kevin Lee fight, where he didn't go for, how much of that was just respecting the wrestling of Kevin Lee. Maybe he just thought that, hey, let me try to work on my hands a little bit. That to me is the only thing that's concerned me. But Diego Ferreira is a guy that I am going to have in my underdog pool. Yeah,
100%. He's an excellent underdog, excellent value. And you have to compare their skill level to their salary, right? Diego Ferreira has gone through people, really quickly, and, it has looked great in some of his wins. So there's no way that I'm avoiding Diego Ferreira. There are question marks surrounding Gregor Gillespie. I mean, strength of schedule is definitely one of them. He's looked great. His ground and pound is good. His control time is good. Diego Ferreira was just controlled on the mat against Beneil Dariush. And Beneil Dariush is a talented fighter, one of the dark horse for the division, in my opinion. But it's not the same as facing a top level wrestler like Gregor Gillespie.
Yeah, no question. By the way, if you do have any questions, I do got the chat up. I will get those questions throughout the show. Sammy, already saw your super chat. We'll get to your questions there at the end of the show. Let's move over to a female matchup between Amanda Dfs and Angela Hill. Dfs 8,800, 7,400 for Hill, and then 19 and 11 respectively. Over on Fanduel, I guess the first thing with Amanda's side of it is how does she bounce back from that loss? And Angela Hill, the one fight that it keeps coming back to me is her fight against Claudia Gadelha. Like, to me, obviously Amanda Dfs wants to get this fight to the ground. There's not a doubt in my mind. The question is, can she get it there, and can she keep it there?
Yeah, I think she can get it there, right? I just don't know if she can keep it there because we have seen Angela Hill evolve into a talented mixed martial artist. I mean, she clearly still has a lower skill level in the grappling and wrestling department than she does in the striking department. Obviously, Angela Hill is a volume-based striker, very technical on the feet, kind of outpaces and outworks her opponent. So on the feet, I think that she can get ahead of Amanda Dfs, maybe even check that chin of hers, see if she has healed from that shot and that knockout defeat to Marina Rodriguez. But, Angela Hill is really not a power fighter or a power striker. And I think that she could have made some adjustments because Amanda Dfs is clearly going to test her in the grappling realm. But like we mentioned, that Claudia Gadelha fight does inspire some confidence in Angela Hill for me. And also kind of like recency bias as well. Like just because a fighter that was highly touted lost doesn't mean they automatically come back in here and walk away with a victory. I think that it's a tough matchup. I do. And on the feet, she will be outworked if she struggles to get her to the mat, or even if she, takes a shot and doesn't take it well. How does she respond to any adversity? But Angela Hill will probably be the smaller fighter here. Definitely will be the smaller and weaker fighter in this matchup. So I think automatically what the audience and everybody's going to do is kind of put Amanda Dfs in their lineups. But I'm here to tell you that I am favoring Angela Hill in the fight, and that surprises me. Obviously, if she gets taken down to the mat, could get submitted very, very easily. But I think a way to avoid some chalk and avoid some ownership is to target Angela Hill as the underdog.
Yeah, the submission aspect is always what does concern me about Angela Hill. Mitch, a couple of comments. Samuel saying, will Dfs going all out being such a disappointment last time around? Thomas saying, I love both of them. They're both great for women's MMA. Hill has a career in sport after she is done. And same with adding that Hill had the volume, but if Dfs take her wrestling all the way, Hill may not be as effective. Yeah, Angela Hill is very good as a commentator. She was actually one of the people in the room on Fight Island for your buddy, Joshua Fabia.
Yeah, my buddy. God. How about my boy Paul Felder kind of put him in his place, and then Matt Serra at one time put him in his place too. The guy's a lunatic.
Bro, I don't know who you are.
Yeah, man, yeah. That guy is just something. I feel bad for Diego Sanchez. Clearly, I feel like this is like a 30-30 in the making.
Look, I have done production meetings for play-by-play, and it's like, bro. They're there to talk to the fighter. They're not there to talk to the coach.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't go complain. They're like trying to go complain to HR. It ain't how it works, man. And it's Diego Sanchez's career. But we shall see what happens next.
And in the not so shocking news department, Scott Coker's already said, nope, we're not interested in Diego Sanchez.
Good.
I don't think many promoters are going to be interested in getting in the Diego Sanchez business because of Josh Fabia. After, first off, you release a phone call with an attorney that would appear you didn't tell the attorney that the call was being taped. So that's not a good sign. Unfortunately, I think we all know where Diego Sanchez is going to end up.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's
going to be bare knuckle.
Yeah. We try not to talk about it, but it's kind of like we can't avoid it. And it's a sad situation. It's headlines and a lot of the media, and you've seen the videos and all that. I think that there's a lot more to the story, and poor Diego Sanchez, but clearly he needs to make some changes.
Oh man, yeah. The Paul Felder is the look Paul Felder is giving, like, bro, who are you?
Yeah, man. My boy Paul was gonna flip out, and I was kind of right there. I was like, man. If that guy's talking to, I was surprised that they waited that long. You know what I mean? Like their tolerance for it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, especially the one guy that people may not have recognized was Zach Candido, who's one of the head producers for the UFC. It's basically like, bro, we're not here to defend you. Like, we're here to call the fights the way we see it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Yeah, Pete, yeah. So, there's things that happen in the sport that just make me go, what is going on here? Like, it's amazing. Of course, we're here to talk UFC Vegas number 26. This show is sponsored by our good people over at Monkey Knife Fight. With Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. Head over to monkeyknifefight.com, sign up, and be sure to use that promo code Awesemo for instant first match deposit up to $100. And Pete, we're going to play a little more or less here. Of course, that's what happens over at Monkey Knife Fight with their player props. More or less, we're going to look at this heavyweight matchup between Maurice Green and Marcos Rogerio de Lima. More or less 29.5 significant strikes for de Lima.
Oh, man. I'm going to say he's going to throw a lot of leg kicks, so I will say more.
All right, Maurice Green, more or less 16.5 strikes.
It's so low, it's tempting, right? Like, I could see that swinging either way. Like, Maurice Green getting clipped with one shot, or they're kind of both on the outside throwing leg kicks and long distance strikes. I have to say over. That's like ridiculously low.
It was crazy. One of the lines I played last week over there, more or less, was on the fancy points for Merab and Cody Stam. I believe they both were more. Merab had 400 points on Monkey Knife Fight.
Oof. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, like the longer the fight goes over on that platform, the more likely you are to hit the more on some of these fantasy points.
By the way, speaking of heavyweight matchups that you don't feel exactly too comfortable with, Ben Rothwell versus Philippe Lins. You got 8,200 for Ben Rothwell, 8,000 for Philippe Lins, and then over on Fanduel, 14 for Rothwell, 15 for Philippe Lins. Pete, I don't feel comfortable putting either one of these guys in my lineup.
Yeah, me either, right? And I was hoping that Philippe Lins would have some success in the UFC, obviously, winning $1 million over the PFL, winning the tournament. I was kind of excited for his hopes in the UFC, and, back-to-back losses to Arlovsky and Bozer kind of just derailed that hype train, so to speak. I mean, because he had relatively decent hype coming into the UFC, and now he's paired up against one of the trickiest heavyweights there are, and Ben Rothwell, who's just ridiculous. He's a big guy, 6'4", 78-inch reach, very physical, very tricky on the feet, used to have some ridiculous movement, and his experience kind of speaks for itself. I mean, he has 51 MMA fights to Philippe Lins' 19. Ah, man, this is a head scratcher of a fight for sure. I mean, if you're looking at the metrics and the stats, Ben Rothwell has a slight advantage in the striking department as far as output, but he has been getting hit more, as of lately. And, he kind of walks into a lot of shots, which definitely doesn't inspire confidence in backing him in the bout. But he's the bigger guy. He does have some submissions in his back pocket if say, Philippe Lins does try to take him down, or if it ends up on the mat at some point. I mean, at this point, I can't back Philippe Lins. He hasn't showed me anything. I mean, he lost and got, outworked against Andrei Arlovsky, and then he got clipped and rocked and knocked out against Tanner Bozer, who, besides his recent stretch, was never really known for his power, but started to put people away. I don't know if it's more to say about the level of opposition, or if Tanner Bozer really leveled up within the division. So for me, it's Ben Rothwell, but it's another close your eyes and hope for the best. I don't really know if this is a priority fight, because Ben Rothwell is always in these tricky, weird, lethargic, lean on you type of fights. But Ben Rothwell getting a stoppage over Philippe Lins would definitely not surprise me.
Yeah, it's just one of those fights I'm not putting a priority on it at all. Because I can see this fight going off 15 minutes and being kind of a sloppy, low-scoring heavyweight fight. So that does concern me a little bit there. Let's move on to the next matchup that I know we're both interested in. That'd be Phil Hawes and Kyle Dawkins. Kyle Dawkins, 8,300, 7,900 for Phil Hawes, and Phil Hawes is $14 on FanDuel, $16 on Kyle Dawkins. Yeah, to me, in terms of this fight, to me, it's if you're going to be a Phil Hawes backer, you're hoping for that finish within about the first, I would say, 7 to 8 minutes of this fight. But this fight hits the third round. I really do like Kyle Daukaus.
Yeah, I think that Kyle Daukaus is one of the best values on the slate, and there are plenty of fighters that I don't say that about. I mean, I have highlighted some of the guys that I will be targeting in my underdog pool, and Kyle Daukaus definitely fits that. I'm going to have some shares, even though that he is the favorite here. I'm a little surprised at the odds and the salaries, to be honest. So the fact that I can get Phil Hawes as an underdog, definitely I like it a lot. It does probably make sense that he's going to come in pretty heavily owned. But as far as a contrarian pick, I think that Daukaus is a nice contrarian pick. I mean, if you're picking Daukaus, you're expecting him to weather the storm, kind of use his length to his advantage, possibly land a takedown, put Phil Hawes on the mat, incorporate some jiu-jitsu over a fatigued Phil Hawes. But I mean, how many fights are we going to fade of Phil Hawes or question Phil Hawes? Is this going to be like a constant Phil Hawes questioning for the rest of his career where we're kind of, always hesitant to back him or support him or have levels of confidence with him? Because if you think about the Nasruddin Imavov fight, we were doing just that, right? Like we were concerned, because regionally and, outside the UFC and even in his Contender Series, you've seen that he has like moments and lapses of judgment at times of leaving his neck out there, getting submitted, maybe even getting outworked when the going gets tough. But it's Phil Hawes for me. As an underdog, I like Phil Hawes. I like his explosiveness. I know he's a talented wrestler. Perhaps being at Sanford MMA is exactly what he needs because in that Imavov fight, he looked strong. He looked good throughout the fight. But a Kyle Daukaus come from behind victory, weathering the storm, doing similar to what he did in the Brendan Allen fight is definitely possible. It's a live betting situation for sure. Kyle Daukaus, one of the best guys to target as far as contrarian. Initially, I thought he was the underdog, but he's not.
No, he's a slight betting favorite in this one. I think Kyle Daukaus, and we talk about this every week, of you look at those fighters that are 83 to 8,700 and finding that sweet spot and then comparing those salaries to what we're seeing ownership wise. Kyle Daukaus may be one of those guys who just kind of, as you're developing your lineups, think about that of what his ownership is in comparison to the rest of the field. You might be able to get a little leg up on the rest of the field over there. Of course, we're here every week helping you develop those lineups. And one thing we do want to talk about is the Awesemo Hall of Fame, where, of course, you're rocking that Awesemo Avatar app. And when you place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants, all you got to do is tweet that win to @Awesemo Hall of Fame, HOF, and you'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Looking at some of the guys that are in there right now, taking on basketball, as it was I Hustle for It. Nice 417 points, man. Good for you. Good for you. I need one of those lineups tonight. So be sure to check out the Also Hall of Fame, as Tyler's got it up there of what people have been able to do. Jason RD 917. That is definitely not me. I did a little 20 max last night. Did not do as good as I hope, and in a little multipliers contest tonight. So I've not looked to see how well I'm doing, as I went a little heavy on that Washington game tonight. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, Pete was got a little mention for the HOF the other day. You love those showdown contests. Showdown contests, they're not my thing, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of a sweet spot for me. I like showdowns a lot. I also like, obviously the smaller the slate, the more I prefer it. The larger the slate, I seem just not to either have enough entries or enough, versatility or randomness attached to my lineups. But yeah, showdown, small slates, kind of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, my wheelhouse of recently really has become those multiplier contests, 3 max, 20 max, and some single entries. That's kind of been where I'm going. And I'll say this, you get all those Draftkings free tickets in your account. I noticed the other day there's a lot of contests out there where you can use your tickets to win into next week's UFC pay-per-view. I want to say $200K to first place in the big GPP. So that's a little hat tip to use those DraftKings tickets to get you in those big GPPs to get you to win yourself a free ticket. A little hat tip. That's what I do.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All of us here appreciate you, Jason. I mean, if you guys appreciate Jason and myself, just hit that thumbs up for us. We enjoy doing this show for you guys.
Of course, we'll be here on Saturday for Live Before Lock as well, but we still got 4 more fights to talk about here before we get out here on this edition of the Strategy Show. Klein and Trezano. Klein, 9,400, 6,800 for Trezano. I feel like because we have not seen Trezano in a long time, that he'll be undervalued in this matchup, even though there is obviously a reason that Klein is a favorite.
Yeah, I think that Klein should be the favorite, but anytime somebody's away from the cage for so long, it does leave some levels of uncertainty, but also, it's like it's an X factor. You don't know what they've been working on. You don't know who they've been working with. You don't know if they've leveled up in certain areas or they've been really focusing their energy in certain departments. I do think that, Trezano is not a bad fighter at all. Clearly, he's had some excellent performances. He's 8-1 overall, so he will be at a slight, experience disadvantage against Ludovic Klein. And I think Ludovic Klein is a very talented fighter within the division. Excellent combinations, great head kick, powerful punches. But there are questions around him, right? Like, I want to see him against some more UFC competition. And I do think that this is a perfect fight for him because Trezano's not an easy fight. He could go in there, and I want to see how he responds to getting tested. What happens if he gets taken down? Will he get submitted? I think that Trezano is a very talented underdog at 6,800. It's a little disrespectful. I don't think that Ludovic Klein should be at 9,400. I think that the odds are a little too wide for my liking. But I do favor Ludovic Klein. Obviously, the absence of Trezano is inflating the salaries and inflating the odds. So, the public's going to be all over Ludovic Klein, but 9,400 is a bit rich.
Yeah, I mean, as I look up and down this card, I'm not in love with a lot of the 9,000 options in terms of GPP plays. Yeah, I mean, like avoiding being underweight on some of the high-priced fighters is always a nice way to diversify your lineups and shoot up the rankings, obviously, if you're able to leverage some situations. 9,400, I mean, like, he definitely can knock him out, but say he scores 105 points. Does that really pay off the salary? We don't know. Let's move on next to a matchup between your boy Adeshev and Ryan Benoit. 8,700 for Benoit, 7,500 for Adeshev. I mentioned this comment that we got over on Twitter a little earlier from Hunter Man. He says, here's my question. What are the odds at Pete the Heat MMA does not go with his boy Adeshev in 50% of his lineups? Well, let me tell you that if I'm recommending anything to you guys, I'm just saying that you probably can't trust either one of these guys, Ryan Benoit or Zarrukh Adeshev to this point, right? Like, let's be real. You can't trust either one of them. Obviously, outside of DFS, I will be rooting for Adeshev like crazy because he's a friend. And I think that he is talented and he hasn't shown his best self within the octagon. But, in 2 opportunities, he's walked away winless. And against a guy in Ryan Benoit who does have some big power for the division. Obviously, I am worried about that. I am worried about Ryan Benoit also working with the likes of Gary Tonin a lot on his leg locks and all of his submission abilities. And, Ryan Benoit also being a part of a new camp and working on with a lot of wrestling. Like he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist. And if you look at his level of opposition and strength of schedule, he's fought some killers. So clearly, if you look at who he's fought, you can't really hang your head at his record. I mean, he's 10-7, and let's be real, the strength of schedule is nowhere near for Adeshev as it is Benoit. So, if you're looking for a safe play and I'm surprised the odds aren't even wider. I think that Ryan Benoit is probably going to be a very, very popular play. For me personally, I would be rooting and rostering Adeshev because that's what I do with friends. But I think that Ryan Benoit's one of the safest plays on the slate as far as
like to walk away with a victory if everything should, he's fought a lot tougher fighters and, he's walked away victorious. But does he really even score well at 8,700?
That's the thing. If you think Ryan Benoit's going to win, I'm just going to tell you, play the ownership game.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what our projections are at this point.
Really?
It's low.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, okay, that surprises me. And, I don't think that Ryan Benoit's like special by any means. So I think it's a very winnable fight for my friend Adeshev. I just think that for the division, Benoit hits hard. He has submission ability. Now that he's worked a lot with Gary Tonin, but it's mainly the knockout threat. And, we'll have to see, Jason. We'll have to see how weigh-ins go too.
Of course, I mentioned about Awesemo Plus and the great tools and data we have over there. Of course, one of the perks of being an Awesemo Plus member is you get access to our premium Slack account. As I've got it right up here, you can ask myself and Pete questions. And of course, I'm in there on Saturday for office hours, answer your questions for your roster construction for that night's UFC. So always love chatting with our subscribers over there in our premium Slack account. We've got 2 more fights coming for you here. And Park and Tafon here, to me, is potentially this fight in terms of GPPs. I think we need to really consider having decent exposure, because I look at Park. We saw him go the takedown route against John Phillips. Well, who doesn't go the takedown route against John Phillips? But on the other side of this, you got a very young and developing fighter.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm interested in this matchup of Jin Young Park against Tafon Nchukwi. I really am. And, Jin Young Park looked good in this victory over John Phillips and, credited with 4 takedowns, 10 significant strikes, 260 total strikes. Fight against Marc-Andre Barriault, 5 takedowns, 77 significant strikes. So if he can get top position over Tafon Nchukwi, I think that it's a very nice spot, obviously. But I think that's his path to victory here. He does have some heavy hands as well. And Tafon Nchukwi is a developing fighter. He's young. He's green. He's 5-0, right? Like, and he's coming from the kickboxing world, part of Team Lloyd Irvin, from the kickboxing world, making his transition into MMA. He has fought some tough guys on the regional scene, William Knight being one of them, and he got rid of William Knight within 1 round. But it's the performance against Jamie Pickett. Like, yeah, he looked good combinations, good volume for the division. But I thought he could I thought he could put Jamie Pickett away. Despite Jamie Pickett's toughness, I thought he'd maybe be able to put him away. And he didn't. So it shows me that he has a gas tank for 3 rounds. But there are still grappling questions regarding him. And, with what Jun Young Park has done in the grappling department, I am interested. I really am. I mean, 3.4 takedowns per 15 minutes, has a takedown accuracy of 64%. Tafon Nchukwi's takedown defense in his 1 UFC fight, 1 Contender Series fight. So I think that I like Park here. I really do. I think the experience of 16 fights is nice. Obviously, I am worried about him getting hit with a shot because Tafon Nchukwi's volume, Jason, something that you brought up, is insane. 7.59 strikes per minute, significant strikes per minute. So if you kind of like extend that over 15 minutes, you're looking at a nice total. So I think this is a very sneaky fight to target, and I agree with everything you said. I am siding slightly with Jun Young Park to pull this off, though.
9 takedowns Park has in his last 2 fights. Of course, his last fight was before the new scoring system came in. I want to say it was like 80 points or something. That under the old system, under the new system, it's still kind of crazy. It was only 127.7 points when he had 4 takedowns, 260 total strikes. 260 strikes in 3-round fight is crazy. Yeah. 13 minutes of control time, and of course, only 10 significant strikes.
That's crazy.
You would think it'd be much higher score than 127.
You would think so, right? I mean, but the scoring system, I'm not a fan of it right now. It is what it is. But yeah, I like the underdog Jun Young Park quite a bit. I think he's in a nice spot here. It's not an easy fight by any means, but I think that he could test a newcomer and put him in some different positions and test his grappling.
I know our guy Samuel's in here. Samuel, I'm just going to let you know something. Your old boy here is going to have some high shares in the very first fight of the night, and I don't feel good about it.
Oh,
Christian Aguilera, Carlston Harris, 8,600 for Harris, 7,600 for Aguilera, 18-12 on FanDuel. It's hard for me to look at this fight and not think the winner's going to be optimal.
Yeah. I mean, how many times is the first fight of the night optimal lately, right? Like, I want to see statistics of that because, like, the first fight of the night seems to be an extremely volatile matchup that neither one of us want to have parts of, but we know we have to. Our hands are tied, okay? Our hands are tied, and we're forced to roster it. And I agree. I think it's the same this week, Jason.
Man, this is a fight that, first off, Harris – you got to imagine that the game plan is going to be take this fight to the ground. Yeah. I don't think you want to get into a brawl with Christian Aguilera because that's what Aguilera is going to want to do. Yeah. Obviously we've seen, whether we're talking about in the UFC or pre-UFC of the fighters who've had success against Christian, they're able to take him down. But man, he has got some highlight reel knockouts. So you got to be able to pay attention to that one. This is a fight that I will have more Harris than I will have Aguilera, but I'm telling you, if you're a multi-entry player, you got to have both sides of this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Aguilera can easily spoil the debut of Carlston Harris by defending a takedown and lighting him up with some explosive combinations. And not too long ago, we were breaking down the Anthony Ivy against Christian Aguilera fight, and Anthony Ivy's path to victory regionally was taking a lot of people down, imposing his will on the mat, and he was unable to do so. He was like a statue in front of him, and he got absolutely lit up by Christian Aguilera, and it shows the potential that he has within the division if he's able to defend takedowns. And then he's matched up against Sean Brady, who is one of the best prospects within the sport, and Sean Brady had his way with him, took him down, ended up submitting him with a guillotine choke. And I will say that you shouldn't really take too much stock away from Christian Aguilera from that fight because it's Sean Brady, and I think that he dominates a lot of opposition within the UFC, but it's also important to note, maybe he hasn't patched up all of his holes. And clearly Carlston Harris is going to look to implement takedowns and test that ground game as he has done on the regional scene. He's 33, and I'm excited to see somebody debut in the UFC. And, I think that he's versatile. He has decent punching power, sneaky jiu-jitsu. And if you look at his strength of schedule to the UFC, I mean, he's fought probably the tougher, arguably the tougher competition than Christian Aguilera. It's close, but there are some big wins a part of Carlston Harris's, fighting career. So I will favor Carlston Harris, especially if he goes the grappling route. But, not too often are we really recommending debut fighters, but I think that I will have plenty of shares of the first fight and think that, he's probably in a good spot to pull the victory over Christian Aguilera.
Look, here's the best part about if I'm rostering the first fight of the night, Pete, is I'm going to be at the Raptors game with my boys.
Ooh.
So I won't necessarily have to be worried about how my lives are doing. I'll probably just catch it after the fact.
Who are they playing?
That would be the Grizzlies.
Ooh, that's nice.
Hopefully John Morant doesn't get tackled at midcourt like he did last night.
I saw that, yeah. He just got absolutely blast doubled in the middle of the court. That's fantastic. I think – do you think this fight goes the distance? Because
no,
I have a sneaky suspicion it doesn't.
No, I don't think it does either. I really don't. It's more about just what we've seen from Christian Aguilera throughout his MMA career. That's just not really in his DNA. Now, before we get into some listener questions, of course, be sure to hit that subscribe button right here to Awesemo on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. And, of course, if you've already done that, hit that thumbs up button. We really do appreciate that. Mentioned Samuel a little earlier. He checked in with a super chat, as always, Samuel. Appreciate your super chats. His typical questions: top 2 cash, top 2 GPPs, MVPs, underdogs, champions, inside the distance favorites, upset of the night, and is the first fight part of the optimal. We've already kind of answered that one there. And update
How
on
do you
Pete's
start
fight.
this? How do you start this cash lineup on a card like this? How the heck do you start a cash lineup on a card like this? You got to start at Gillespie, who's been away from the cage for so long.
That's a damn good question.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, who the heck do you really like? Who is your staple? This is one of the ugliest cards I've ever seen for DFS, but we tend to really succeed on cards.
Taking salary out of it.
Okay.
Maybe it's Jeff Neal.
I was going to say, I like Jeff Neal the most on the card. Like, it's not an easy fight by any means, but I have like a really strong feeling that he puts Neal Magny away.
Marina Rodriguez may be the other top cash play.
Okay. I mean, that's a typical answer, right? Like a main event is usually where you would start most of your lineups. If it goes the distance, does she still pay off her price tag? If it's primarily a striking fight, maybe. Right. I wish she was a little cheaper.
Yeah. In terms of GPPs, look, God, I hate to say this. Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
Oh my God. Like,
I just want to say that fight, but man.
Yeah. If you have a lock on this card, let us know in the comment section. Let us know who you like, who you're backing. I mean, like, I respect everybody's opinion, and so does Jason. I mean, you guys are, well-versed in MMA. So clearly, like, we have a very educated audience. This is just not my favorite card by any means. And I think there are question marks surrounding almost everybody here.
And like Sam brings up about inside the distance, like there's some fights I really like to go inside, but this fight card screams a lot of decisions.
Yeah, it kind of does, right?
Like main event, I think it's got a good chance it goes all 25 minutes.
Okay.
Co-main event,
maybe
60-40, it goes the distance.
Okay, fair.
Neal Magny probably goes the distance. Rogerio de Lima, no. That one's finished.
No, it's out.
Gillespie.
That's going the distance.
Hebos Hill.
Distance.
Rothwell leans.
It's gonna be a long night.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, you start going down. It's like, man, you see a lot of decisions here. And I think that's why you have to start kind of thinking, upset of the night. I might say Park.
Yeah, I think that a common upset would be probably Park. I'm going to be different than you, and I'm going to say Angela Hill over Hebos.
UFC betting wizards saying Dawkins is his lock.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I like Dawkins a lot. I really do. I think that Dawkins is a very talented fighter for the division. And it seems every time Phil Hawes is on the card, we're starting to really get enticed by his opponent because we think that he can expose him. Maybe he can. We'll see.
Kaya says, do not tell people about those ticket contests. I got like a 200% ROI in them. Stay out.
Oh, man.
I have a good ROI on those as well. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way. It's a great way to get those free tickets in the big contests. I'm just telling you.
That is funny. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see how this fight card goes. I mean, we're looking forward to breaking it down again after the weigh-ins on Saturday. If you guys appreciated our show today, if you could just hit that thumbs up before you head out of here, But
before we get out of here, we got to give our straight up fight picks. This could be an interesting one.
Non-DFS picks. I don't want to hear you guys giving me a hard time of who I'm picking. Okay.
Well, I think you killed me last week. I think you killed me last week in the straight up picks.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Let's start the main event. Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson.
Rodriguez.
I'm with you on that one. Cerrone and Morono.
Cowboy.
I will agree with you there. Neal Magny.
It's tricky.
Neal Magny. I said that.
You're confusing me. Jeff Neal.
Give me Jeff Neal. Yeah. Green and Lima.
De Lima.
I will agree with you there, man. We got a lot of agreements here. Fajea and Gillespie.
Gillespie.
Diego Fajea.
I knew it. I knew you were going to do that.
Hebos and Hill.
Hill.
I will go Amanda Hebos.
Okay.
Rothwell and Leans.
Rothwell.
I will agree with you on that one. Hawes and Dawkins.
Pause.
I will stick with you on that one too. Klein and Trezano.
Klein.
I will go Klein as well. Benoit and Adeshev.
Yeah, so you already know I'm picking my boy Adeshev.
I will go with Ryan Benoit. Park and Tafon.
Park.
I will go with Park. Aguilera and Harris.
Harris for me.
I will go Harris as well. So those are our straight up fight picks. I know we got someone on Twitter who keeps track of this for us. So he always lets us know during the fights of who's up and who's not, who's down a little bit. I know last week I think I took a bunch of underdogs and that did not work out for me.
And that's okay. I mean, sometimes you just got to go with your gut. And if you like somebody, don't let anybody talk you off them. I mean, obviously respect what they have to say and kind of jot it down and think about it. But honestly, like sometimes the best thing is your gut.
Yeah, I know. And because I do a lot of hand building. And so sometimes the big thing, I'm just trying to differentiate my lineups a little bit. That's a big thing for me, especially I think we all kind of, as Mma DFS players, we all get stuck on that one fighter. And that one fighter ends up in like 90% of our lineups.
Yeah, that's the hard part for me too, right? Like, all your lineups are looking good, and then that one guy that happens to be in like 70% of your lineup just doesn't come through, and you're like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, man. But of course, appreciate everyone checking out the Awesemo MMA DFS strategy show. Of course, Tyler, you can hit that music. We'll be back on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Good luck on Saturday, and we will talk to you on Saturday, 4 p.m. each time for Live Before Lock.